Good morning and welcome to the Megacast. It's not a podcast. It's not a radio broadcast. Not even a television broadcast. It's the Megacast across all media as much as we've been able to dig up. Good morning. My name is Dave Scott, joined by Tyler Keefe in a moment, and we thank you for joining us all across Oakland County. As you can see, if you're watching on Civic Center TV, we start the show each and every day with cleaning up the studio because others have been in here. We've been doing really good keeping our place clean and coronavirus free, we certainly hope. So Tyler will be in here, a couple of us in addition in the studios, and that's it here in our facility. The rest of the team putting together this show, there's a bunch of folks. They are scattered all across southeastern Michigan working in their homes, and that's kind of the way we're all doing it. Did you see Saturday Night Live over the weekend? That was amazing. Thank you for joining us. The Megacast is 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH The Biff, WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. You can also enjoy the Megacast on Civic Center TV. Civic Center TV is channel 15 Comcast, channel 99 AT&T. You can tune in to channel 99 AT&T all across Metro Detroit. Just go to channel 99 and AT&T. You'll see all the community television channels. Just pick West Bloomfield and go to Civic Center TV. Our favorite way really to watch it, though, is online at civiccentertv.com. You can go there and you'll find a very high-quality, high-definition broadcast. And we want to thank today, as we do each and every day in the show, a special partner in the community who offers up their Facebook Live page. Today, it is Premier Pet Supply. We're really glad to have them there because Premier Pet Supply has a terrific Facebook page with thousands and thousands of folks. And if you're tuning in on the Premier Pet Supply page, thank you very much for checking us out today. You're going to get a whole lot of information about what's going on in and around Metro Detroit, a local perspective on what's happening with the coronavirus. Our headlines today: over the weekend, you might have seen it, the lowest one-day coronavirus case count in an awful long time. It was in the 600s, cut almost in half. However, an extreme degree of caution coming from the governor as those numbers were released over the weekend, saying that we may have tested fewer people because it was Easter weekend. The governor will explain all that, and we'll talk more about that and many other issues affecting us and the coronavirus in Michigan today with a 3 o'clock press conference. You could see that on civiccentertv.com and many of other stations. We'll talk today about some of the other federal programs that are continuing to ramp up. The Paycheck Protection Program is available starting today for self-employed folks and contractors. 250 beds is all they say they now are going to need at Suburban Showplace, and we'll talk more about that today. Michigan is the first in the country to get a new food assistance program that's going to be helping out a wide variety of people. And how about a couple of students from Bloomfield Hills and West Bloomfield who put together this amazing website? I love it. It's helping teenagers cope, teenager to teenager. And how about this? How about this for a name? Quarantine. Quarantine. I love it. Great thinking, and just another great example of people here in our community working together. And that makes for a very nice segue, as joining us now, the principal of Bloomfield Hills High School, Charlie Hollerith. And Principal Hollerith, thank you very much for joining us via Zoom. You look great.
Thanks, Dave. Glad to be with you.
Well, and you must be beaming and proud because, Charlie, one of those students we were just talking about attends your school, and another one, his younger sister, is they're West Bloomfield residents, but they are both in the Bloomfield Hills School District. You got to be really proud, and what a great thing they're doing, huh?
It is really great what they're doing, and we've seen so many different examples of this through these dark times over the last several weeks. Students stepping up, like with Sam in quarantine, trying to help others, or our student leadership doing virtual spirit days to a number of different activities. So it's great to see. I think that's one of the great silver linings in a dark cloud, is that how community members, especially our students and families, have gotten out to support each other.
Well, and I want to thank you. You're another great participant in this whole thing in your school. A big thank you to Bloomfield Hills High School, you and everyone else, and your superintendent, our good friend Pat Watson, for making the BIF 88.1 WBFH available for the broadcast. I can see you smiling again. I know you're proud, and what a great use of that radio station to help inform the community during this crisis. So a big thank you for making that available.
Well, and it's our pleasure. And, in this time, you can't have enough communication. So we need to rely on West Bloomfield, all of you, Avondale, us, the BIF, to get out the message, and just another resource that parents can rely on to keep up to date in this situation.
And if you're not proud enough already, you got to be even prouder, because the guy sitting in the studio, the guy's been hitting all the buttons, Tyler Keefe over there, is another graduate of your high school. Do you know Tyler by any chance?
Tyler, we have, I think you well know, Dave, we've had a lot of students that have been on the BIF and been part of the radio program that have gone on and continued in communication or advertising. So we're very proud of Tyler and so many others after him and before him that have continued to pursue their passion.
Well,
radio or multimedia.
He does a great job. He's blushing over there in the corner. You can't see him, but he is blushing. He does a great job. He is our associate general manager of our operation. And other than the fact that he was educated at Michigan State, I think he does a pretty good job considering those limitations, Tyler.
We can't all be perfect there. We can't all.
So Charlie, if you don't mind, Charlie Hollerith, principal of Bloomfield Hills High School. How are things going? It must have been devastating to hear the news that school is essentially done for the year. How are you dealing with that in Bloomfield Hills?
Well, it's certainly, we got the devastating news, but we've been busy because, albeit 2 weeks ago we were still considered a brick and mortar school, and now within 2 weeks starting today, we've launched our continuous learning plan and are moving forward as online and doing the best we can. And we especially, this is the time of the year with end of year events and celebrations and recognition and awards, and we're especially sensitive to our seniors, the class of 2020, and trying to look at rescheduling or redesigning some of these activities so they can get the recognition and honor they deserve. And a lot of that will hinge upon the governor and what health experts we'll seek their guidance, and we'll have a contingency plan for the contingency plan.
No, I understand. And, I think back over my lifetime, and certainly one of the proudest moments, I think more for my parents than me, but was when that miraculous thing happened and I actually graduated from West Bloomfield High School. So I know that people want to be able to appropriately celebrate this, but we got to deal with what we got to deal with. We got some time, though. The possibility still exists, and I know a lot of schools are looking at streaming commencement ceremonies and things like that. But more important than the ceremony, we have been assured, and you can reassure parents right now, that seniors' accreditation and their graduations will be secure, even though the last days in school have been virtual.
Absolutely. And by and large, not only in our high school, but in high schools across the state of Michigan, most of the seniors have completed, because they've completed all but half a semester of their 4 years of coursework. So most of them should be in good standing. We just want to make sure that in these last remaining weeks that we prepare them for the transition to college and university or whatever career aspirations they may have.
Are things getting any easier? We talked to your superintendent, Pat Watson, and all the other superintendents we can get a hold of across our coverage area. And the first couple of days were, wow. Everybody had an awful lot to handle. Is it settling down? Are you getting into some kind of a groove now?
I think now that we've got our continuous learning plan in place as a district, I think that will be reassuring for students and families. And the only other thing is looking at the events that we're going to need to reschedule. So I think we're in a good place right now. Certainly a lot better than we were 3 weeks ago, with a lot more questions back then unanswered. So we're confident, and I know we'll get through this.
Anything you want to share with parents or students in your district that any new news, any new information, anything that you'd like to talk to them about today?
I think it's going to be important, especially as Bloomfield and West Bloomfield, Troy, all Farmington, all the surrounding districts start moving forward in the curriculum. It's going to be important for families. I think parents have realized the challenges of having kids home all day and trying to do their jobs and keep their children caught up in the learning. So I think establishing routines at this point and a daily schedule is going to be very important for parents as best they can. We know that many of our families in our communities will still be battling this terrible virus. So, cases of COVID will still exist, but I do think we're in a better place, and we will continue to communicate those changes. Michigan Department of Education is giving us a lot of guidance. I know us as in our conference, the Oakland Athletics or Activities Association, the OAA, which is made up of all area principals, we continue to meet on a regular basis and coordinate our efforts. So as we move forward, we'll continue to communicate out, and we thank you and others for helping get that message out.
Charlie Hollerith is with us. He's a principal of Bloomfield Hills High School. Principal Hollerith, thank you very much for joining us today. And, it's tough, I know, on students and teachers and the administrators, but the parents have just been amazing, dealing with their work, dealing with being at home, dealing with helping their students and helping them and taking on some of the teaching responsibilities. Parents have been absolutely amazing.
They have, and they've been very patient, and we continue to appreciate their trust and support as we get through this together with them.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Good to have you here. Say hello to everyone at Bloomfield Hills School District. Tell Mr. Watson we said hello, and we will keep in touch. And if you have anything else you want to share with the community, let us know, and we'll get it right out there. All right.
Thank you, Dave. And I just want a quick shout out to Ron Whittables, our station manager. Many of you know he does a great job keeping the BIF operational, and I'll definitely send Pat your best. And from all of us in Bloomfield Hills District, thank you for the work that you're doing to communicate the messages out from all of us.
Yeah, Ron is so humble. He said, I kept mentioning his name on the radio and on TV, and he said, Dave, you don't need to do that. But he's done a great job, and he really embraced this with all the enthusiasm you can imagine when we said, hey, we'd like to partner with you and get this information out to more people. And he was there. He said yes immediately, and it's been he's gone through a lot of personal inconvenience to make this happen. So I just want you and Pat to know that he's doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. The principal of Bloomfield Hills High School with us. That is Charlie Hollerith. So thank you very much, sir. Tyler Keefe, your alma mater. You've got to be awful proud today. They're doing a good job keeping it together over there.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job, much like our other school districts in our coverage area, to innovate and to work individually for their students and their students' needs and what has to happen in that school district. Every school district operates differently, and I think that also applies to this crisis. And it's interesting to see, and it's really compelling to see how each of our individual school districts that we're covering during this are adjusting themselves.
And not only are they educating kids, but when we didn't get to it today, we've talked to the other districts. They're feeding kids, and anyone who needs a meal can go to any of our schools and get a meal. And then I'm sure they're also going to be part of this new federal program that Michigan is the first in the country to be a part of, a new federal food assistance program. We'll talk more about that later on in the broadcast and see if we can get you some helpful information or give you information that you might want to share with somebody else. So educating our kids during this challenging time is complex, and everyone's got to be on board. And another important member of the team working hard is Kimberly Smith. She is the owner of Mathnasium in the Orchard Mall in West Bloomfield. Kimberly, good morning. You look great on Zoom. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you. Appreciate you having me this morning.
Well, I know what Mathnasium is, but why don't you tell folks that are listening around Oakland County what you do and what's going on at Mathnasium?
Absolutely. So Mathnasium is a math-only learning center. We service students kindergarten through 12th grade. It's designed to help students catch up, keep up, and get ahead in math. We first start with a diagnostic assessment, which allows us to identify opportunities for growth and advancement for each student, and allows us to develop a unique and customized learning plan for each student. The sessions are taught live by our instructors, our highly skilled instructors, and they're focused on helping students develop a deep understanding of math concepts, along with focusing on helping them to improve their confidence in the subject. Math is one of those areas where students can really, feel like they have low self-esteem about their education. And so being able to help them better understand concepts and build up that confidence is so very critical. And so in addition to our program that we provide for them with our curriculum, we're also able to help them with homework that has been assigned from school, helping them to prepare for tests and quizzes, and even prepare for some of the standardized testing that's available.
Well, if I had kids that were in high school right now, I'd be calling you because, I don't know that I remember how to do 2 + 2, let alone algebra and every. I mean, I use the things that we all use. My math isn't that bad, but I think that the students now in your typical high school in Oakland County probably have a little bit more advanced curriculum than I went through back when I graduated in '77. Don't you think?
Oh, they do. With students now and having to incorporate, up through, a lot of them up through calculus at this point, it can be quite challenging for them. And having someone, a resource that they are, comfortable with, being there to further explain the concepts that they have learned at school is actually an advantage for them, to be able to take the time to maybe sometimes just slow down and ask questions. That's one of the things that we notice is that students, are a little bit more nervous about asking questions in class. It's one of the things that I talk to them about as far as, what are the best practices when they're in class. And a lot of them, hesitate to actually ask questions. So this gives them a comfortable area, environment that they can do that.
So you must have gone virtual. I'm sure you have. You're not having people in your facility at Orchard Mall. How's it going? And can other businesses learn from what you've experienced?
So yes, we were fortunate to be able to go virtual with our Mathnasium at Home program. And it's allowed us to be able to still service our students and bring on new families and students and work with them through a virtual environment. It's been a great resource for us as we have had to transition during this unprecedented time that we're in right now. And it's allowed also my instructors to be healthy and safe and work from their homes. So it did require us to put together, some new in what we do, but I think and continue to support our kids and still engage and interact with them. I think it's important during this time to, allow students to still have a bit of normalcy in their life, especially the kids that have been with us for a while, to see their same instructors that they had been working with. They have just really taken to this transition. The families and parents have appreciated what we have put together in such a short time. We were only closed for about a week while we transitioned all of our students, their curriculum to a digital platform. So we were able to kind of move quickly with the support of my staff and still service our families.
Kimberly Smith, what a great job. Thank you very much for being with us. Thanks for helping the students through this period of time. I guess the one upside here is that you can reach out to a slightly wider geography. People don't need to come by.
Yeah.
For those people that aren't familiar with you and how to get a hold of you, you're in Orchard Mall, but how do people that may have heard about you today, how would they get a hold of you, Kimberly?
Well, they're welcome to still give us a call. We have a call center, so they can call us at 248-851-6284. And they're also welcome to visit our website, which is mathnasium.com/West Bloomfield.
All right. Kimberly, great job. Kimberly Smith, the owner of Mathnasium. And I look forward, after we get through this, to coming by and maybe we can have a cup of coffee and get to know each other. You're doing a great job, and I'd like to learn more about what's happening at Mathnasium. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking with you this morning.
Great talking to you. Another person in our community doing a great job, Tyler, to help us get through this difficult time. And, I just had like a tutor, some high school kid that was a couple years older than me. Much better, more defined, well-thought-out programs available now.
And working with the students on an individual person-to-person, student-to-student basis also. And she even mentioned in the interview how helpful that is to the students and how much of an emphasis her company is taking on just that. So it's interesting to also see how these companies are innovating, especially a company that's solely working on tutoring students, getting their perspective on the students themselves and their individual needs and how that connects to our school districts. It's a great connection that's really helping this abnormal and different and weird time in education function so well.
Well, it is. We're going to talk to another retailer in just a moment, a retailer that is in the pet business. We got to keep our pets fed, and I assume that a pet supply store, Tyler, is an essential business, and they are still open. I assume that's the case. Okay.
Yes.
We'll talk to the folks at Premier Pet Supply. Mike Palmer will join us. We'll talk dogs and cats in a couple of minutes, and we want to thank them as well for being our Facebook partner today. Quick look at our headlines that we're watching today. Lowest one-day coronavirus number of cases on Easter Sunday. Governor says, hold on, wait a minute, that might have been because we didn't test as many people. Press conference today at 3 o'clock, and we'll get more insight into that. We'll also talk to a number of experts about that specific issue. Have we flattened the curve? Are things still problematic, and are we still increasing? We just don't have the numbers that indicate that. And what about all this talk that the president and others, everyone's leaning into May 1st? Is that realistic? Some say yes, some say absolutely not. We'll talk about that more. On Friday, we had a great opportunity to talk to somebody who I think was both optimistic and realistic at the same time. It was Vice President of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the guy who is really the number one person at Travel Michigan, Dave Lorenz. And Dave Lorenz talked to us about the actions people need to take here in the state of Michigan. Listen in to Dave Lorenz.
What I'm hoping for is a resounding stay in Michigan program, that people in Michigan who had to give up their trips down to Florida or Alabama for their spring breaks, I know that's really something people love to do as it gets warmer down there and it's still cold up here. But when we're allowed to travel, it's going to be warmer out there. And I'm hoping that people, instead of taking those trips out of the state, that they'll stay here and they'll be part of the solution to bring us back quickly. And now I have to tell you, I'm never somebody who says don't travel out of the state. I believe in the value of traveling around the world, and for us to be able to see what happens in other places and to explore other destinations, to get to know other people around the world. It's good for us in so many ways, if only it makes us appreciate where we live that much better. But right now, this year, I'm going to plead with people to please keep your travel dollars here in Michigan. That will help us come back that much stronger for leisure communities, and be a tourist in your own town. Stay in your area, support Detroit and the region as well, because that will pay big dividends down the road.
All right, so we're going to have a big debate, I'm sure, over the next several days and weeks over when we should get back to normal. And for those of us here in Michigan, Tyler, getting back to normal, a big part of getting back to normal is heading up north, going camping, enjoying the outdoors. And Dave Lorenz is saying, well, I hope you do that when it's time. And I hope this year you make an extra effort to do it in Michigan, because a lot of the national advertising dollars that we've had available to promote tourism in Michigan are not there. And furthermore, I'm not so sure people even this summer are going to be really excited about jumping on planes and flying halfway across the country. So if our tourism business in Michigan is going to be active this summer, we really need to be supporting it by traveling right here at home.
And you talk about the speculative benchmark date of when we start to go back to normalcy as being May 1st. That's kind of the hot time right now. I think from a Michigan perspective about those spring and summer and early fall tourism landmark dates. Memorial Day is a big one, the 4th of July. In places like where my family is from on the west side of the state in Grand Haven, it's their annual Coast Guard Festival, which is a big week for that city and for that general area. And I think about how big of an impact those have on the local economies and on the state economy and just on the populace morale during this time of the year, the most beautiful time of the year in my humble opinion. And I think about what Dave Lorenz said. We do have to think about bringing Michigan back through tourism. And I think that those are going to be the true benchmarks of when we get back to normalcy.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, one indication where I go, Charlevoix in the summer, Charlevoix has already canceled their big festival. And Dave Lorenz said, hey, don't cancel these things. Postpone them. Let's see what happens. So we'll have more on that in the coming days. And again, this afternoon, we're going to talk with Governor Whitmer. Well, we won't be talking to her. She'll be talking to the state of Michigan. And we'll have a press conference at 3 o'clock, and we should have a better idea of what the end of April looks like and more thoughts about our ability to flatten the curve. Other headlines on the Civic Center TV website today. If you are on there right now, we're on the coronavirus page if you're watching on TV. And you can see here Governor Whitmer to give her a live update, COVID-19. We'll have that on Civic Center TV live for you at 3 o'clock. Today, self-employed 1099 contractors can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. This is what small businesses have been endeavoring to apply for with some difficulty, but now you, if you're an independent contractor, you're self-employed, get in there and apply today. The longer you wait, the less likely dollars will be available for you. Suburban Showplace to scale back on hospital beds. We talked to the folks at Suburban last week. They were getting all ready. Army Corps of Engineers, they're all set up to put maybe another 1,000 beds in Oakland County, and maybe, Tyler, another indication that we're flattening the curve a little bit. Now they're reducing that number to 250 beds, so that's really good news.
It's definitely a good sign when there's less of a precaution being taken by the county and by the national and state government as far as protection goes, but it's also reassuring to know that if they do need to ramp it back up, the resources are there.
Back to the website, Michigan first in line for new federal program providing food assistance for families. And this is a really interesting program. You can go to this link and read all about it. A fantastic story in the Oakland Press. We advise you to read it. But just quickly, Michigan is the first state in the country to be approved for a new federal food assistance benefit program aimed at keeping school-age children fed during the global pandemic. Read it. It's at oaklandpress.com, and you can find that article and all the information there on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And then how about this story? West Bloomfield siblings create online forum for students. And Tyler, I know we're trying to get a hold of these folks, Sammy and Jack Pollock. We're trying to get a hold of them. Hopefully we'll talk to them today on the show, if not tomorrow. West Bloomfield siblings Sammy and Jack Pollock created a forum for students, elementary through high school, to help them discuss their feelings and create an outlet during the COVID-19 quarantine. It's got to be tough on kids. It's tough on all of us. It's got to be tough on your kids, too. I know parents are doing all they can to attend to the kids, but, you know, parent to kid is one thing. Kid to kid, if you excuse the expression, is a much better deal. So these two, Sammy and Jack, created a website called Quarantine. I love it. What a great name. Quarantine. The siblings said they got the inspiration from their mother, who is a social worker at Beaumont Hospital. If you're a local student, we invite you to go hit the link. I'm just going to hit it really quick here so you can see it. That is fantastic. Quarantine. Let's fill out that contact form, see if we can get a hold of them and get them on the air as soon as possible. I assume they built this site themselves. There's information about it. Go to quarantinehelp.com, quarantinehelp.com, and you will find all of the information. Well, in addition to students working hand in hand, there's nothing better than having your pet there at home to make things better, someone to cuddle up with, your dog, your cat, whatever. I don't know. Can you cuddle up with a bird, Tyler?
I'm sure you can. I don't know if that would be something that would be suggested.
All right, well, let's find out. Joining us now is the owner of Premier Pet Supply, Mike Palmer. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing really well, thank you. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Are you in the West Bloomfield store right now? We're seeing you on Zoom.
Well, I'm currently in our Beverly Hills store right now, but we are operational and doing all we can in West Bloomfield to serve the community there. My cousin and partner, Jeff, is at that store as we speak, and we're doing all that we can to keep the business afloat while also doing our share to keep people from socially interacting and staying at home and feeling safe.
Well, you're doing a great job. I appreciate it. Thank you twofold. A, for being with us. We'll talk pets in a minute. And but also, thank you so much for including us today on the Premier Pet Supply Facebook page, where you are our Facebook partner. And, you got a ton of followers. People must love you guys. You're like 8, 9, 10,000 followers. So for all of the people that are watching, your fans on Premier Pet Supply, and they're seeing you now, thank you. And you could say hello to them on your Facebook page right now.
Hi, guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.
So what don't we know about pets and our pets during this crisis?
Well, I think pets in general sense energy, and I think they many people have recognized this, or maybe others haven't, but I mean they really do have a sixth sense to know when we're anxious and when we're sad, or even when we have happiness and joy. And in a time like this, whatever energy that you may have, your pet's definitely going to sense. And it's great to have them. A lot of us are cooped up at home alone, and to have a pet as a companion, to be there, really helps getting people past situations like this.
Well, I think it's a great idea, and you're absolutely right. I just know that when I had my blood pressure taken last at an outing we did with Henry Ford Hospital, they had a therapy dog there, and they let you have the therapy dog in your lap or right with you when they were taking your blood pressure. And my blood pressure was never better. I'm kind of close to not having the blood pressure I should have, but it must have been very soothing for me when I had that test.
Yeah, it's been proven scientifically that actually petting an animal and doing that does lower blood pressure. It's incredible. I know it helps me. I mean, after a stressful day, and if I'm tired and I get home and my dog just recognizes that and puts her head on my lap, and I just get to pet her, it brings me down a couple notches for sure. There's nothing like it. I mean, that unconditional love, no matter what, they're just there for you. We wish more people would be that way, right?
Well, yeah, no kidding. So Premier Pet Supply, you've got locations around Metro Detroit. We know the one in West Bloomfield. You're in Beverly Hills. Where else are you around our area?
We're also in Troy, in Rochester Hills, Livonia, Novi, Northville, and Canton.
All right, so go ahead.
I mean, it's kind of been put on the back burner. We're excited, though, that we will also be and are currently in the state of building a brand new store in downtown Detroit. So as soon as construction is back in the groove, and we'll get things moving and hopefully get open sometime here in summer.
Put on your business hat for a minute, if you would, Mike Palmer, owner of Premier Pet Supply. How's it been for you? I know you're open, but I'm sure this is impacting your business. What have you had to do to get through this?
Sure. I think challenging is the word that I've used most often. I have to start by saying it's definitely very difficult to complain at all, because I feel so fortunate that we're even open. I mean, my heart just breaks for those businesses that are currently closed and the people that are without jobs. But to speak transparently about what's happening, with our business, we've taken a big hit. We're probably down to about 40% of the employees that we typically keep here. No one's sick. A lot of people either had to stay home with their children, chose to stay home because they wanted to protect loved ones that they may live with, or just wanted to play it safe. And we're 100% in support of that. That being said, our business is down about the same number. We're down about 35, 40%. But we're working even harder because with less employees, and now with the offerings that we immediately put into place with curbside and delivery to limit that social interaction that people are hoping for, to have a lack thereof, to minimize the interactions. Curbside is one of the things that we're doing, and the delivery. So in essence, what's happening is there'll be a lot fewer people in the store, but our lines are constantly ringing in our stores, and we have, employees that are designated to taking those phone calls, and they're running around the store, gathering the things that the customers need, then manually putting things through the computer system, and then manually putting in the credit cards, packaging everything together, putting it all where it needs to be, and situating it. And that takes 2 to 3 times longer than someone just walking in, buying their products and leaving, which is typically we've been doing business for the past almost 30 years now. So we've definitely had to conform. I think in any situation, and if you're going to run a solid operation, and you have to conform as a business to whatever the current climate is. And right now it changed on us really quickly. So we had to adjust on the fly. And credit to my employees that have stuck around, and they've been working their tails off, truly harder than ever, just making things work. I've had customers FaceTiming my employees, putting orders together because they want to see what we're choosing. We're taking orders by email now because our phone lines are constantly busy. And so it's challenging, but we're making it work, and we are open. People are more than welcome to still come into the store. We have cut our hours by 2. Typically we close at 7 o'clock or at 9 o'clock. Now we're closing at 7 o'clock. And that's just because it's hard to staff. But other than that, we're doing everything that we can. And I can, I constantly tell everyone that I interact with is that you can't waste energy on the things that you can't control. But, what I can control is how we do business here. And so far, so good.
Mike, I appreciate you telling that story. Mike Palmer, owner of Premier Pet Supply, because it resonates across our entire culture, across everyone in Michigan, across everyone in Oakland County. We're suffering right now. We're doing the best we can, and everybody's just got to, tough it up. It's a war. Do the best you can, and it certainly sounds like you folks are doing that. So congratulations to you and your team. I like the fact that some folks have said everyone is essential. Everyone is right now. Even people who are staying at home, maybe they are the most essential of all, because it ain't easy. It's not easy staying home and going through what people have gone through, and now we'll all be going through at least till the end of the month. So congratulations. In my grocery store, I can rarely get eggs, and I can never get toilet paper. What's being hoarded in pet stores? Or maybe nothing, I hope.
Well, there was an initial surge where people just didn't know. There's still to this day a lot of uncertainty, but I think we've got a better understanding of where we're at and where things are going. But about 3 weeks ago, we had a lot of customers not knowing what was going to happen. So there was an influx of customers coming into the store purchasing lots and lots of food and litter, primarily. Interesting, fact about our business is the primary products that we sell, about 70-80% of that is dog and cat food. And that's just about what everybody was buying. And for a bit there, my distributors and suppliers were concerned that they wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand. The thing about pet supplies and pet food is that the shelf life is a lot longer than your groceries. Usually the distributors and the manufacturers have a few months surplus of the product on hand, because your average bag of food is typically good on the shelf for about a year or so. But they were limiting us to what we could buy, not knowing if this would continue or not. Obviously, it's not like grocery business, the grocery stores, where now everyone who's buying groceries is at home. They're not eating out or not going to work and eating there. They're eating everything that they're buying, and they're constantly in need of more and more. With pet food, it's not quite as bad. So still a few weeks later, there's a couple manufacturers that are just now catching back up with some of the inventory that they were having a hard time supplying. There was some issues with some truck drivers and precautions that were taken in some warehouses and supply chains that limited the speed in which we were getting product that we normally would get no problem. But as of now, I think everything's kind of hit a point where we're back into a groove. You know, we're at regular stock levels, and there hasn't been an issue of shortages, just a couple here and there.
All right. Mike Palmer, thank you for joining us. Mike Palmer, the owner of Premier Pet Supplies. Are pets safe? I mean, we've talked to others that said pets cannot get the coronavirus. Is that what you're hearing as well?
It is exactly what I've heard and what I've read. There was a case early on where a dog, tested I guess it was slightly positive for curing it, but not actually having it. But then I don't know if that was something that they ever were able to figure out. But no issue with pets carrying it. It's a completely different strand of virus that only affects humans. So we don't have to worry about that at all.
And is anyone bringing the dog or cat to the store with them, or is that forbidden?
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, some people are, still just playing it safe, but a lot of people have been. We've recognized that with all the extra time people have had, we've got a lot of puppies coming in the door. So people that were on the fence, weren't sure if they were going to get a puppy or not, have chosen to do so because the kids are at home and everybody's there and they've got time to train that puppy properly. So that's actually been really nice to see, and that's given us a lot of things to smile about when we see those puppies come through the door, which is great.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So a lot of people, it only makes sense. A lot of people are getting pets right now, huh?
Yeah, it's been nice. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dogs that were in the fosters that good story was they were able to find foster families that take those, but at the rescues, they can no longer operate and really do any of those adoptions through the venues like the Oakland County Animal Shelter, the Michigan Humane Society, who we're both partnered with. But they will have a great need for those animals to find homes ultimately, once this ban is lifted. And so hopefully a lot of people recognize that there is a need to find great homes for those animals that are in the rescues and shelters, once all this subsides.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. We're always looking for a unique local angle on the coronavirus, and I don't think I've seen a single pet store owner on CNN or Fox News or even maybe our local TV station. So there we go. Thank you for joining. That was great. Thank you very much. I learned a lot today, and good luck. And you guys, tell us again where your locations are if people want to stop out and visit one of you today.
Sure. We've got 8 locations in Metro Detroit. We have Troy, Rochester Hills, West Bloomfield, Beverly Hills, Novi, Canton, Livonia, and Northville. You can call all our stores if you'd like to have curbside or delivery. We're doing free delivery for any orders over $25. Our phone lines are limited. We weren't ready for the onslaught of phone calls we're getting. So if you can't get through, email us. It's usually the city of the store. It is the city of the store, followed by @premierpetsupply.com. So West Bloomfield @premierpetsupply.com. If you can't get through over there, we'll get back to you right away. We can't thank everyone out there enough for all their continued support. Now is the time more than ever. I always try to drive this home, supporting local, keep your money local. We try to be the epitome of what that means by giving back as much as we can, both physically and monetarily, of our time and money to the local community and keeping things moving. So thank you all for your support and continued support. It means the world to me.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Mike Palmer, the owner of Premier Pet Supply, with us here today. Tyler, I know you love pets. You've been around pets your whole life, and we got to think about dogs and cats right now too.
We do, and I've been putting a lot of thought into how I can best keep my 2 cats at home safe and keep them engaged and try not to be too distant from them during this while still keeping their area safe. And it's good to get a perspective from a pet expert like Mike and his team to kind of get a better perspective on what the pets are thinking during this, so you can better behave yourself.
You can tell what your cats are thinking? I mean, really?
No, I can never tell what they're thinking. They're completely in their own world.
All right. Thank you for joining us. This is the Megacast. My name is Dave Scott. He's Tyler Keefe over there on the other side of the studio. Want to thank all of our outlets for being with us. 89.3 Lakes FM in the West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, Commerce Township, Lakes area. 88.1 WBFH, The Biff in Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, and working our way up toward Keagle Harbor and Sylvan Lake up into Pontiac. And, of course, WAHS, 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. We are on Civic Center TV today, Channel 15 in the West Bloomfield area, and Channel 99 all across Metro Detroit. And the best way, of course, to watch is to join us online, and you can find us online at civiccentertv.com. So he's kind of turned into our Dr. Sanjay Gupta, if you will. He is Dr. Jamie Tuweel, and he is joining us again via Zoom. Hey, Doc, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us. You feeling okay?
Thanks,
you doing all right? Everyone in your office doing okay?
Yeah, doing all right. We're running kind of a skeleton crew right now. We're doing a lot of telemedicine phone calls and bringing people in for very specific issues, blood draws, things like that. Kind of considering how we're going to open maybe a limited practice going. It's been pretty tough.
Well, it is tough, and it's tough on everyone. I mean, it's even tough for pets, and we, as we just found out. So for you and I, it isn't easy either. No. We are hearing all kinds of information, and I don't know if you've seen the news reports over the last couple of days, but let me throw this at you if you had the ability to offer some comment. So we saw the numbers really go down yesterday significantly. The number of cases in Michigan down almost in half. Governor's office came right back, along with the Michigan State Police, issued a release yesterday saying, well, hang on, we maybe are making progress, but this information could be misleading. And then it was Easter Sunday, and we may not have tested as many people. She's got a press conference at 3 o'clock, I'm sure, to tell all of us in the state, hang on, we got a lot of work left to do. Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do have a lot of work to do. This is not something that's going to go right away, but I do believe that it is. I believe personally, and looking at some of the data, that we have met our peak, and it's slowly starting to come back. But also testing plays a big role in that. We don't know how many actual cases there are until we get testing, and so we're also telling a lot of people that have symptoms, hey, you know what, stay home unless you have some significant symptoms, then go to the ER. A lot of people are getting tested to just determine whether or not they should be able to go to work. But some people that have symptoms that aren't getting tested aren't necessarily registering as a positive, but they are exhibiting symptoms. So it's kind of tough to really go by the numbers. From what it looks like, Michigan is slowly hit its peak, and it's starting to hopefully rescind. I can't guarantee that that's happening. It all depends on how well they adhere to the stay-at-home order, how well they practice social distancing, maintain, hand washing, appropriate things. It's a tough one. I do think we're not out of the woods yet, but I think we're maybe starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, and you can understand how our elected officials are being very cautious with the public, because they don't, even if the numbers are good, they may not necessarily want to come out and say, hey, we're doing great, everything is fine, because people might just back off and drop their guard.
Absolutely. You also want to, one case is one case too many in this situation. So anything we can do to reduce that number to practically zero is always going to be the case. People may feel that we're being a little too aggressive in terms of how well we're requiring people to do social distancing, how well we're, some people are concerned that this lockdown might be too aggressive, but if you can just avoid one case, I mean, that to me is a victory then and there. So.
Dr. Jamie Tuweel is joining us. He is an internal medicine specialist here in Oakland County. We thank him very much for being with us today on the Megacast. Good to have you with us. So, what do you think? I mean, you're on the front line. You're a physician. Are people getting tested? Because we hear the federal government and the president telling us, yeah, we have all the tests out there we need. We hear local people saying, geez, we're not testing nearly enough. We hear some people say you can go get a test. We hear other people say you can't still get a test. Can you give us any thoughts from the front line right here at home in Oakland County where we are?
Okay, so this went through some stages. When everything first happened, no one was able to get a test. So everything was operating on presumption. Now testing has become a little bit more available, but they're still limiting the amount of tests they can give. They're still limited to how, they have those tests that offer a quick turnaround time in terms of results, but that machine itself is tied up until the results are spitted out. So it limits how quickly you can get tests done. It limits the amount you can get done. Certain independent labs I know are doing testing. How it worked when everything first hit was you had to qualify in order to even get a test. So a patient would call me or set up a video conference, and I would have, discuss with them whether or not they exhibited symptoms that were concerning. At that point, we would write them an order to get a test, and then they would have to try and find a place that would offer testing, either hospitals or local testing sites. We had a list of them that we were giving to people, and they would go there and either get tested, or if they didn't meet criteria, they wouldn't get tested. Today, it seems that they've opened that up a little bit more. I know hospitals are doing mass testing now to a better degree, but I still think we're still limited in the amount of tests that we can do and how many we can do. So it's improved, it's not fixed. And so it's still a factor. It's still certainly a factor.
Well, unfortunately, we don't know how many people are asymptomatic because asymptomatic people are generally not getting tested. Is that correct?
No, they're not. In fact, if you're asymptomatic, I know previously, I'm not quite sure if it's changed much, but as far as if you're asymptomatic, they're not going to get a test on you because you don't have any symptoms. If there's suspicious for a symptom or you've had a known exposure, that might change whether or not you're able to get a test. But for the most part, if you're asymptomatic, they're going to hold off because they're going to use that test for people that are either critically ill or ill and kind of need to be able to direct therapy.
Yeah, so we're really in a bind. We don't know. We do not know how many people may have been infected with the coronavirus. We don't know, and we don't know how many people may have antibodies. There's a ton we don't know. So I can understand the challenges that our elected officials are faced with as they try to sort this thing out, because we got a tough time ahead of us. The governor, I think if you just get a sense of what she's going to want to do at the end of April, she's going to probably want to extend. You've got other folks in government that are probably more business focused that want to get us all back to work. And I don't know how those two sides of that debate come up with a good answer without testing that we really need right now.
It's tough. I mean, I kind of find myself in the middle of that because as a business owner, I have a medical practice that I've had to basically limit and do video conferencing. And that, I'm not going to lie, for my bottom line, that's not the most ideal circumstances. But at the same time, my goal as a physician is to do what's best for my patients. And that has to trump all of this. For people that are more business minded, it's concerning because you have to consider the fact that, without people, there's no business. So, there has to be a medium where you have to realize that the patients are the most important people. They are that's the crux of everything. That is the purpose for businesses, is to supply and help people. So I think that they're starting to see that to a degree, but it is a squeeze, and everyone's feeling it. Certainly we all are.
Dr. Tawil, thank you very much for joining us. He is Dr. Jamie Tawil. He is an internal medicine specialist and has been our go-to doc, if you will, here on the Megacast, and we appreciate it. Do you think, back to testing for one more minute, do you think that we're going to transition away from the kind of testing we're doing right now to test for antibodies? We're hearing a lot of that. And will that, is that sound, are we there yet? Is that coming? And how will that help?
I believe it's coming. It's probably it's working its way down the pipe. It will help because it will show whether or not you've been exposed previously, because the antibodies will remain in your body. It will allow us to determine whether or not you have an active infection versus a past infection. I think right now they're just testing whether or not you have it, yes or no. So if you're able to do antibody testing, you're able to better determine not only whether or not you have the infection or whether or not you've been exposed to it and are past it. Kind of like when you check for vaccines, did I receive the hepatitis vaccine? You can check for antibodies that suggest that you've been exposed and or vaccinated.
All right, Dr. Tawil, anything else that is crossing your desk that you're seeing that you think might be helpful for folks right here in Oakland County that we'd want to share with them today?
No, I didn't mean it to be
no,
grim, but There's not too much. It's more of the same. Hopefully the numbers that you presented at the beginning of this interview are true. I hope they're not false based on the lack of testing. Let's see what the governor has to say today at 3. I'm hoping that we're going to see that the social distancing and all the things that we've done has paid off. And we're starting to see a slight reduction in numbers. And we're starting to see a slight, bump in the availability of resources to treat this. I think that we're starting to get a little bit ahead of this. Michigan was one of the worst hit states. And I like to see that we can set a better example and try to, show that this stuff, the things that we are doing is actually working. So hopefully.
Well, I am hopeful as well. I thank you for joining us. We'll keep in touch. I'm going to call you next time and that we have something across our desk that doesn't make any sense or we need some more information. I appreciate you being available. And I have the cleanest hands I have ever had in my life. I've never been, I'll be honest, I've never been the world's best hand washer. If nothing else, I've gotten a lot better. I'm doing the goop to hand wash with, people can see right now, you can't see it, with scratching in there and doing all that. And I sing their birthday song like 2 or 3 times. So we're getting better. If nothing better else, we're getting better at washing our hands.
We are. And it's getting better. But when I'm seeing a lot of people with, just bad eczema from washing too much or getting dried out from the sanitizer that they're using. So we're going to have to start working on that problem. Maybe get a sanitizing lotion to work.
Can you put some, well, that's a good point, Doc. Can you put some lotion on after you've sanitized and washed? Is that a good idea?
I heard that it may not be the best idea to do that. So okay. I don't want to give any data on that without giving a quick refresher. But I think once your hands are clean and sanitized, you should probably avoid the lotions as best you can. I would put the lotions on at night when you go to bed and allow that to better soak into the hands as opposed to, because you don't want to leave residue on things. And that lotion tends to get transferred a little bit easier.
All right. Well, thank you for that advice. And, my hands are getting a little dry. I get it. So thank you. All right, Dr. Two-Wheel, thank you very much. He is Dr. Jamie Two-Wheel, internal medicine specialist, and he is our go-to doc right here on the Megacast. Tyler, how are your hands? I thought I'd never ask you that. How are you doing? Okay?
My hands are good and clean, Dave. I wash them regularly.
Okay.
If I'm interacting with equipment in the office that other people in the office are also interacting with, I make sure to wash after I've used it and sanitize. So,
all right, let's take a quick break. I had no idea it's already the top of the hour. Time flies here on the Megacast. I want to thank our radio stations across the way, and then we're going to take a break, and we'll get back with Chief Greg Flynn, the West Bloomfield Fire Department. He has been absolutely incredible, one of our leading first responders on the show, and he'll, I'm sure, have some insightful thoughts for us. Thank you to 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keagle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, it's 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and WAHS, Auburn Hills, 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, our radio station. Thank you. Thank you for watching Civic Center TV, Channel 15, Comcast in the West Bloomfield area. You can find it on Channel 99 if you're an AT&T customer, all around Metro Detroit. And if you would just like to watch online, that's actually where the best signal is. Go to civiccentertv.com, watch live, hit the button, and you will see all of this in full high definition. And a huge thank you to our good friends at Premier Pet Supply, making sure that you got the pet food you need, and also providing us access today to their Facebook Live page. And we thank all of you who are pet lovers watching on the Facebook Live on Premier Pet Supply. We're going to take a 30-second break. We'll be right back. Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department checks in next.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Caldoun. We know that COVID-19 is spreading rapidly across Michigan right now. The most important thing people can do to protect themselves is social distancing. That means unless you are a critical infrastructure worker or going out to get food or medicine for your home, you should be staying at home. Stay home, stay safe, save lives.
Welcome back to the Megacast. Dave Scott, Tyler Keefe here. Thank you very much for joining us. We're doing everything we can. Our hands are washed. We've done our social distancing. We've cleaned our surface off. We do it every half hour here on the show. And the guy gave us all those great tips at the very beginning of this process is none other than the chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department, Greg Flynn, who joins us now via Zoom. Chief, hello. Welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Dave.
Thank you for being with us. So before I ask you a myriad of questions, what do you got for us? Any updates, anything on your mind today for the public?
Well, one of the things I sent you guys an email about, and we'll see maybe if we can get that up on the screen, is some of the widgets that are out there. And, a widget's just kind of one of those compilations of all the different pieces of information. And the state puts out a widget of its own, and you can see a nice display of kind of what we know are the facts. And the one thing that I heard you talking about with the physician in the interview here just before this one was about the testing, about the number of cases that are coming through. And you can see a nice picture of kind of how those are dropping off. Now, remember, we've talked before, Dave, if testing's taking 3 to 5 days and we're seeing a drop, we want to see multiple days in that drop before we see that we speak to any kind of pattern. And we also need to look at the availability of tests, because if there aren't the same number of tests being administered, one wouldn't expect there to be more positive tests. So we got to be careful with all of these numbers.
Well, that's what the governor's office said in a release, and I'm sure today, and we hear from the governor at 3 o'clock, that's exactly what they're going to say. I'm sorry, I'm an optimistic person. I see these numbers, and they are beginning to look a little bit better, and I know all of you are cautious, those first responders, elected officials. We got to keep everybody engaged. So we are obviously very cautious about saying anything that would lead anyone to believe that this is over, because we aren't anywhere near. We're not even in that neighborhood. But you got to feel good seeing what we've seen, don't you think?
Well, we should be proud of the community's response. Really, they're the ones that are making the impact here. The fire department, and through our engagement with you, sure, there's a preventative part component to what we're doing, but for the most part, right, we're responding to the incident. The community is the one that's doing a great deal of the heavy lift on the prevention, and it's through the continuation of the message, through the Megacast and the engagement, through what you're doing with Premier Pets and bringing like every component of life and how this is having an impact. And you and your team are highlighting that, Dave, and it's impacting all of our lives in that way. And when we can find these nuanced ways of, when I'm out walking Ruby with my wife at night, our Labradoodle, when we see our neighbors, we still maintain that distance. This, people say, let's get back to normal. Folks, there's a new normal coming. And instead of saying, let's get back to normal, let's find the new normal and start exploring that and do that well.
Well, there's a lot of anxiety, and we wouldn't be honest if we didn't say people are ready to get back to the new normal. People are ready. We'll do what we're told, but people are ready to see some adjustment as soon as it is possible. We're all looking forward to that, and I'm sure it's coming, and the day will get here, but the day will get here when the day gets here, and you can't determine that. The governor can't determine that. The president can't determine that. The virus will determine that, and that's a smart approach, and we'll wait and see where we go with that.
You're right, but we also know through just watching you prep here before the segment and seeing you wipe everything down. Right, you're doing those things. You talk about your clean hands and how those weren't necessarily things that you or I did a ton of. Now, I would say those in healthcare and those that are in medicine have a tendency to probably do more of that, but that's because we're familiar with it. Everybody's becoming more familiar with how viruses are transmitted now with COVID-19. So we're going to be better off on the other side of this. But you're right, navigating to the other side is becoming more frustrating. How do we keep our residents for a few more weeks on board with what we're doing and keeping that social distancing? That's why I think so much of the conversation we need to talk about what the new normal is going to look like. What will, life look like for my sophomore this year? What will life look like when they move up into the high school or into junior high? Those are probably some of the things we need to be spending some time on. We have a good foundation for how to prevent this disease from being transmitted. Now we need to spend some time of what the future is going to look like.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you, Craig Flynn, Fire Chief in West Bloomfield, you continue to be ahead of the curve on this, and I appreciate that. You have to be, because you have to anticipate what's going on in the community so you can get ready and prepare for it. And but I think a lot of people are very cautious about talking about what's next right now in leadership positions, because they want to make sure people continue to do what we have to do right now. So there hasn't been a lot of conversation. I welcome that conversation. I think you're right. Let's have it, and let's start talking about what is next. So do you have any thoughts on what our world is going to look like whenever that day comes, and we can at least have at least some level of flexibility in the way we're traveling around our community?
Well, I do, and I want to be careful too. I don't want to say we're there, as you, I think, very appropriately defined in this conversation. We're not there yet, but we can start to discuss it. And what does a lunch line look like? What does it look like when you show up at Starbucks moving forward? We know what it looks like at Kroger. I know what it looks like at Costco. Is that what it's going to be like forever? And in Greg Flynn's humble opinion, and it's just an opinion, no, I don't think that's exactly what it's going to look like. But we are going to move into a Costco a little bit quicker than maybe what we are right now, because we're going to learn more. And an informed community is a responsible community, and we will take ownership in that disease transmission. And just those little things of creating the space and being respectful of each other's space is going to provide a great deal of comfort. But keep in mind, Dave, as we look at this, and as the physician before was saying, we're going to have folks that get infected, and then they are going to have some degree of immunity. We know that we can't necessarily say that, and I'm not the expert to talk about that. You need a physician or epidemiologist or someone with more background. But history tells us there'll be some degree of defense that our body is going to develop against this. So that will bring back some confidence, but I hope we don't lose some of these best practices, like the simple things of hand washing. I saw on one of the major networks this weekend that they had a poll about handshaking, and it was split darn near down the middle about the number of people that said handshaking will go away and handshaking will stay. That'll be hard for me. I'm a handshaker. You and I have worked rooms together. So that'll be a hard thing to overcome, right? But for my boys, my three sons, maybe not so different for them. Maybe
no, I think we're going to be living in a changed world. I am not an expert on any of these issues, so I can easily offer some commentary and just take a glimpse, because what I say means nothing. I'm a broadcaster. Couldn't be lower in the food chain, but I'm hoping that we can get out of our houses pretty soon. We didn't have these skills when this all started. So getting isolated at home was vital. We had to do it anyway. And now we've learned these skills. We know how to social distance. We know not to shake hands. We know how to wear masks. In fact, I've got I don't know if it's a good look or not, but I've got my bandana here. You can't see it, Chief Flynn, but it's it other than looking a little gangster, it's good. So we know to go out now and cover our face in some way. But does that mean we can't golf? Does that mean we can't go out on our boats? Does that mean we can't go to work in some working environments? Does that mean some of us are going to work at home? Some of us are going to get out? Does that mean we can't go to a restaurant that's configured correctly? I hope those things happen sooner than later, and we've all learned a ton, but I don't see this social distancing or physical distancing going away. I think it's part of our culture for a while.
And I won't push back on that at all. But what I think you'll see is a refinement of that. I think anytime we implement something, the pendulum, so we were over here, it swung way over here, and we're going to course correct probably back to somewhere in here. And what I mean by that is the risk is highest when there's more unknowns. So we know that's when we're really the most potential for disease transmission. What don't we know? We don't know where the virus is. We need more testing. You hear that all over the place, but remember, that's more complicated than just saying we need more. You need a system, you need the labs, you need to be able to process. All of that goes with that, which is not an easy feat to overcome. But once we understand where it is, once we understand who's immune to it, once we have very clear, definitive answers for, can it come through on mail or through my Amazon packages? And do I need to set my groceries in the garage for 2 days, or different things that we've heard? All of that's going to kind of naturally refine out of our culture, and we'll be at that new normal. And I think it's going to be fun. I don't know that driving around in a golf cart is going to be my first choice. I kind of like my league partner and like that comforting between the 10 feet to my ball when I didn't hit the ball well. But my point is, we're going to discover what that looks like. But does that mean there's hand sanitizer now on all of the on a golf cart, or that there's more of a hand sanitizer? The availability of that is just in more places now, because we appreciate that more and understand how those simple things reduce disease transmission. And we have the power. I don't need to have 6 years of schooling to figure out how a disease is transmitted when the experts tell me that I just need to follow these 3 steps or 4 or 5 steps. We can do that. And I think we just got to give the public a little bit more confidence at times and a little bit more credit for the good work that they're doing. And I couldn't be more pleased with the West Bloomfield, Kego, Sylvan, and Orchard Lake communities that the West Bloomfield Fire Department serves. And I know as far as this megacast is going, all of those communities throughout Oakland County, they're just doing a fantastic job of reducing disease transmission. Dave, remember, we're one of the top counties for disease count. So for confirmed cases, we're one of the top ones. We're in that top 3. I think last I checked, we were in the number 2 position, but you got to watch that Wayne County, Detroit. They have those separated out. So,
well, and this is why I like Greg Flynn. This is why I like doing the megacast, because the conversation we just had isn't going on anywhere else. People aren't ready to have it. And you said what we are hoping to hear from an awful lot of people that, I think the public at large, sure, there's been some people out there that haven't done a very good job. But by and large, we are going to see a high level of success because the public has done what they've asked. People aren't driving around. They are staying home. They are washing their hands. And you know what? I think we as a community here in Oakland County can continue, even though we might be number 2, can do the next level of things that we need to do, but we got to be trusted to be able to do that and move on. So this is going to be fascinating to see how this goes, and I hope that together we are able to plot the proper course and do this in a way that lets business continue to go on, let some of us get back to doing what we want to be doing with our time and get our economy going back, and then make sure that we're taking care of all of our health. I have confidence that that'll happen. But this conversation has to start happening, and hopefully that will. I want to just take 30 seconds and go backwards, and it might take more than 30 seconds, and just kind of rewind and look back. Greg Flynn, Fire Chief, West Bloomfield, and glad to have you here for this conversation because you and I have been doing this for several weeks now. If we went back and said when we had this first conversation that we would be the number 2 county, that basically we know we have lost a lot of people and a lot of people have gotten sick, but a lot of people have recovered. That we are handling this as a community. We have not had massive civil unrest. By and large, this thing has gone pretty well. Considering what we've been dealing with and all the plans and work and effort. I mean, I assume that you have the capacity today to respond to the 911 calls, and you have somewhere to take patients, and they are going to get care, and we don't have people scattered out on the streets in gurneys, which we weren't so sure about a month ago. I mean, this has gone, pretty well from my perch.
So agreed, and we make these comments very carefully because we will be judged when we're all done with it. But it's similar to what I say to Danielle and I, to our kids. When you prepare for that exam or that test at school, and they come home and I ask them how'd they do, and they said, "Well, it was easy. I did fine," right? Because we were prepared. I'm not implying that this has been easy or the stressors that are, but we have been prepared. We're prepared with our partners at Henry Ford. We're prepared with our partners at the county EOC. We're prepared with our partners at the State Emergency Operations Center and our partners at the federal level. It is working. I think sometimes just in my opinion, and you're a broadcaster, I'm just a fire chief. So, I mean, I drive a desk now for a living. But my point is the politics of it, I think sometimes we lose and we want to focus on some of the things that we need to maybe make an improvement on. But there have been so many successes. You're seeing on social media that the hospitals that are putting up the dry erase boards to show the number of folks off of ventilators and successfully discharged after a COVID-19 diagnosis. There are success stories and there's tragedy, but there's tragedy with all disease. And we're not even highlighting that right now, that cardiac disease and diabetes and stroke and all these other things that are going on at the same time. So it's a complex discussion, Dave, but we need to start to find, where we're going to go and where this is going to take us, because it's going to be here before you know it. And that same planning that has helped us weather this in as positive, maybe a light as we can, that same amount of planning is going to need to go into that next phase. And we need to start having those conversations like you said. So I look forward over the next couple of weeks to hear what that looks like. When our parks open, from Director Tucker, what's that going to look like? When Town Hall opens and you talk to the supervisor in the coming days, what's that going to look like? It will be different, but the service is still going to be there for the community.
And the beauty of this show is that that planning is happening right now. That we don't know exactly how it's going to be executed. That's a good debate. We'll have it, and it's going to happen on a national and statewide level. But here we're already planning. We're discussing it here in front of the public, which I think is great. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for doing this. And we're putting a plan together. And I think the best quote, with all due respect to all the wonderful things you have said on this broadcast over the past several weeks, the best quote that we had from anybody came from our friend, the former principal at West Bloomfield High School, and now the superintendent of Bloomfield Hills Schools, Pat Watson. And it's not surprising that he would say something quotable. He said, "Hope," he said, "Dave, hope is not a plan." And that's true, and that's what we've been implementing. We all hope for the best, but we are planning. You have planned. Everyone who's been on this show is planning, from the docs to the people, to the hospitals, to everybody. And that's going on right now as we try to plan our way to what next week, next month, next year is going to look like. And I appreciate all your thoughts today. Anything that we need to share with the public, anything that we need to work on, do it a little better, or anything that Chief Flynn you'd like to share with folks around Oakland County?
Well, I always appreciate this opportunity, Dave, for you to let's get a couple messages out. Number one, I want to share three things. First is I want to reemphasize the flushable wipes, and we talked about that a few interviews back, and just to underscore that, and you gave me a great quote for that one. But if those are not flushable, and we don't want to have any issues with our sanitary system. So please do not flush those things that are called flushable wipes. Number two, make a face covering. There are lots of, the Surgeon General has a YouTube video on how to make one out of a clean t-shirt and 2 rubber bands. And I'm sure there are many other great Pinterest and YouTubing type videos out there to make a face covering. It's okay, do it. When you're out in large groups, the face covering does a couple things. It'll provide you some protection, but also a reminder to, as one of our talking points, is to not touch your face, not touch your eyes, touch your nose, touch your mouth with your hands. And that face covering will help you do that. And number three, encourage you to fill out your census paperwork. Now, you can do that online. I know that that's a message that the township clerk has been passing on. I want to underscore that. The census plays a role in government's ability to respond to these types of incidents. And we need everybody in West Bloomfield, the Tri-Cities, all of Oakland County and the great state of Michigan to do their census and get that completed. That'll be helpful in the less work the census workers have to do in going door to door. So please complete your 2020 census.
Fire Chief, West Bloomfield, Greg Flynn, thank you very much. Been a great leader throughout this whole process. We appreciate it. Good chatting with you again, and best to you. We salute our first responders. The work you're doing, the work the medical community is doing is heroic and dangerous, and it is greatly appreciated. And thank you very much for everything.
You bet, Dave. Thank you.
All right, Greg Flynn, Fire Chief, West Bloomfield, joining us here on the Megacast, and a great leader through this whole period of time. We appreciate it. Joining us in a couple of minutes, State Representative Mari Manoogian. She is from the 40th District, which includes Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, and portions of West Bloomfield Township. She was born and raised in Birmingham, Michigan, and is serving her first term in the legislature. We've heard, just coincidentally, not by design and not to get political, Tyler, we've heard from some Republicans in the House. We've not heard from Democrats in the House. It'll be interesting to see what she has to say and how are things are going with her in her first term and dealing with this crisis, and get her thoughts as we prepare for the governor, who will talk today at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, we got the reaction, and it'll be good to get a perspective from the governor's party within the state of how their preparations and their discussions on how to battle this went, and get both perspectives, because we'll have a more full view of how our state's leadership is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic crisis.
Yes, this is a nonpartisan show. We don't want to
Absolutely.
get into that. We need to be nonpartisan problem solvers, and we get right down to the grassroots level, and that's what we're doing our very best to do here on this show. All right, we have been rolling without. I think we've taken like 2 30-second breaks the whole broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, and we'll review the news of the day, listen to some other commentary from the days gone by, and check in with our state rep. My name is Dave Scott. Tyler Keefe, 6 feet away on the other side of our very clean studio. We are in the Lakes FM radio studio in West Bloomfield and Walnut Lake Road. We thank you for tuning in across Oakland County on our television and radio outlets. Today, that includes Birmingham Community Television, Civic Center TV, Channel 15, and Channel 99 on AT&T. And our radio outlets, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH The Biff, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, and we will all be back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Welcome back to the Megacast here on 89.3 Lakes FM, lakesfm.com, Civic Center TV, Channel 15 in the West Bloomfield area, and Channel 99, AT&T, and you can view that from all around Metro Detroit. We thank you for tuning in if you're watching us. You can also watch us online at civiccentertv.com. And again, a huge thanks to these radio stations reaching so many of you across Metro Detroit. It's not an easy job to get these stations all hooked up and on the air. Tyler, you've been doing a really good job making that happen. Thank you very much. You're a skilled engineer and a lot of buttons to hit back there, so good job. Yeah. And thanks to our radio stations as well. Of course, Lakes FM, we're in our own studio. That was easy. 88.1 WBFH, the Biff. Thanks, Ron, and WAHS. 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, and Logan's been doing it every single day. Let's get Logan on the air tomorrow. We promised we'd talk to him. We've not had a chance to chat with Logan and see what's going on. I think it'd be good to talk extensively to a high school junior, and why not talk to our friend Logan from WAHS? So we'll do that in a couple of minutes. All right, we're all ready. How did that happen so quickly? So there's an awful lot going on here in the state of Michigan today. Of course, the governor will be speaking coming up at around 3 o'clock this afternoon, another press conference from Lansing. Today's going to be a really big day because over the weekend, you may have seen the media reports that the number of new cases was way down on Easter Sunday. And those numbers were released, and then all of a sudden, additional information through the various media outlets around the state of Michigan. I'm just reading my notes here. It says that information may be very misleading because it was Easter Sunday, and the number of tests that were held may not be consistent with what we've been doing on a regular basis. The tests on Sunday have all been down. That being said, generally it looks like, as we've talked about with Chief Flynn a moment ago, things are getting a little bit better. With thoughts on that and a whole lot more and an update of what's going on in Lansing, we are delighted now to be joined via Zoom by State Representative Mari Manoogian. She is of the 40th District, and she joins us. And we got you on Zoom, State Representative. Let me just hit a button here. You look good. Good job making the Zoom work.
Thank you. I've gotten to have a lot of practice here the past few weeks.
Yeah, we have. So where are you right now as we're chatting with you?
I'm in Birmingham in my condo. I have like a little makeshift office next to my exercise bike so I can make sure I have a routine. And so we're hunkered down here safely in Birmingham.
All right. You know, this is your first term in Lansing, and What a welcome you had to find yourself smack in the middle of the biggest challenge that we may have had in the state of Michigan in the last century.
Absolutely. And, I've said this when people keep asking about what it's like to be elected right now and sort of what it's like to be a leader and in the community. And, I don't really speak a lot about this, but I'm someone who's pretty grounded in my faith. I've got a pretty strong Armenian apostolic background and have really thought about this really hard. And, I think that all of our leaders, regardless of political affiliation, have really been put here for a reason. And I'm really grateful to be serving with everyone right now.
Well, that is a great statement. And I couldn't agree more. And I think by and large, even the people that at times seem the craziest have helped us get through this. And, it isn't easy. I mean, let's be honest. Whoever thought that the governor, the governor never could have imagined having to deal with this. And whatever she does and decides, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be unhappy. And it's been complicated up to now. I think it's going to get a little bit harder. We've got some really tough decisions in Washington and here. In Washington, they keep throwing this May 1st date out. President wants to see that happen. Doctors aren't signing in, and who knows? And we have the same debate here in Michigan. Is it time to start opening things up a little bit more? We'll hear from the governor today. It's a complex issue regardless of where we all weigh in, don't you think?
It absolutely is. We've heard a lot from constituents who are concerned about potentially visiting their lake houses up north or issues around gardening centers, that sort of stuff. And listen, I'm, not without the understanding that we need to get the economy going at some point here safely. But the key word in that sentence is safely. And we need to make sure that we are following what these epidemiologists, what these doctors and scientists are telling us, because my biggest concern is we prematurely open up the economy and then we end up in a worse place than we were now because we'll have to shut stuff down again. And businesses can't take that inconsistency. They can't take the lack of certainty. At least in this space that we're in right now, we can get the tools we need together, whether it's through the federal stimulus package or working with MEDC and some of our partners here at the state level. If we can do all of those things and at least assist our businesses to put together plans, it's not going to be perfect. Everybody understands that we are in a dire situation here, especially in Southeast Michigan. But if we can use the tools we have in our toolbox to put together plans so we can figure out when it's safe to open up the economy, I think it's going to be the right thing to do for all Michiganders.
State Representative Mari Manoogian of Birmingham joining us. She represents the 40th District, which covers a lot of our coverage area. We're on a number of radio stations and on community television sites. We want to keep in touch with you as you are speaking to your people. Just tell me if I'm wrong here, but you are in a very critical spot right now, you and the legislature, because the way I see it, the governor most likely would like to extend and continue to issue executive orders that are going to help us get to where we need to get to. But we only have an emergency declaration through the end of April, and she can't really do a lot of the things that she wants to do without the legislators' approval. And
right.
you guys didn't give her 70 days. I'm not weighing in on your opinion on this. I'm saying the legislature as a whole.
That's true.
So
yes.
just
it was a
help.
voice vote. So you
help.
can't see either. Couldn't see my opinion either way on that one on the record. But I do think that we need to give the governor the tools that she needs, and in concert, not just give her the tools she needs to do the right thing in terms of executive orders, but also back her up legislatively. And the best way to do that is we need to figure out a way to be able to meet remotely.
The legislature.
Yep, absolutely. There's other states that have been able to do it. For example, Pennsylvania has. In becoming a state legislator, I've been able to meet some amazing legislators from around the country, and have had the opportunity here in, this opportunity to work from home, that I've been able to contact some of these folks and ask them, what are you guys doing? What are some of the best practices? How can you help us out? Share some of those ideas. And my friends in the Pennsylvania legislature are able to meet remotely. They're able to continue to do their jobs because their rules allow for it. And right now in our legislature, those rules don't exist for us to be able to do that.
Mari Manoogian. Okay, so help me understand, because there's probably a political thing here too. Why can't you guys? Why haven't you been able to pass that and get that approved? What's the holdup?
Yeah, so this is the thing. There's a couple of different interpretations about why the legislature can't meet remotely. There's some folks on one side who say that it's a constitutional issue, that the Constitution doesn't allow for it. And there's others that say it's a rule change. Frankly, it doesn't really matter to me how we make this happen. I just believe it has to happen in some fashion. So the thing that I'm proud to support, Minority Leader Chris Gregg, she represents Farmington Hills area. She put together a plan that includes a rules change that would allow for us to meet remotely. And for me, it's something that I think we really need to critically examine. And as I mentioned, whether it's something that we all agree on as a legislature and create a constitutional amendment, or we do it through a rules change, it doesn't matter to me. We just need to be doing what's best for the people.
Is there a partisan divide on this issue, if you don't mind me asking?
That's a great question. I can't really speak to whether there's a partisan divide in terms of what the other side is saying about the issue, frankly, because they're not having the conversation with us. There's just been radio silence about that.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Good luck
Sure.
with that, because, really listen, I'm an open government guy. I'm in the community television broadcasting business. I would like to see you guys meeting as often as possible and doing that in as open of an environment as possible. So Godspeed on that. Good luck with making all that happen.
Appreciate it.
But clearly, the legislature is in the driver's seat right now, and it's going to be a difficult time making these decisions. Can I ask you, we haven't had a chance to meet, and I want to ask you just a very direct question. Do you believe that our lawmakers and the governor trust the people of the state of Michigan to be able to implement a slightly more relaxed plan? Or do you think we need to be, and I hope you don't mind me being direct about this, or do you think we just need to be a little bit more cautious with what we're doing because the populace, the 10 million of us out here in the state, can't implement it if it's a little more relaxed?
That's a great question. And I'll just give a quick anecdote and then I'll answer it as directly as I possibly can. And for folks who know me around the district, they'll know I'm a pretty direct person. So one of the things that I have been following really closely is sort of the conversation around, why are we implementing these stay-at-home orders in counties and in cities that don't have as many sick folks with COVID-19 as in other counties like ours? And the reason for this is very simple. And you can see it from the mouths of the mayors in those towns that don't have any sick folks with COVID-19 right now. They are horribly worried that someone from Southeast Michigan is going to go up north, visit their family, go to their family's cottage on the lake, what have you. And throughout that time that they're spending up there, they could be carrying this disease and not knowing it, because it really is something that is invisible, that sometimes folks don't even have symptoms when they're carrying, and they could be shedding this disease in a space that doesn't really have anybody who's contracted it yet, and then could create a complete overload for our rural hospitals. There are many communities that do not have access, that lack access to the healthcare they need, regardless of whether we're in a pandemic or not. And those hospitals, those doctors and nurses, all those medical professionals who are on the front lines will be completely overwhelmed in some of those spaces, and it would be absolutely devastating for those communities. So I completely understand, and I think that there will come a time when we can begin to relax some of these restrictions again. But, as you mentioned earlier, we did see a little bit of a lower reporting number of cases yesterday. However, yes, it's the weekend, and you can look back into previous iterations of data that have been released to the public. A couple of weeks ago, we saw a dip on a Sunday where it didn't look like we had as many cases, and then it skyrocketed again. So I think I just think we need to be very cautious. I think that the stay-at-home order extended through the end of the month is appropriate. And then we can reevaluate then. I think it's a very cautious and judicious move. It's something that I know the legislature is doing in concert with the governor.
So are you talking in the legislature, because that order is there, and the things that you talked about, the second home issue and the travel across the state, has been addressed in the current orders? We've got boating shut down, golf courses shut down. We got, it's pretty restrictive right now in light of the comments you just made, and it's understandable. Are you guys having that dialogue? Because you got a plan. Is there dialogue going on in the legislature, knowing this is going to be on your shoulders? Are you talking in your caucus, and is your caucus talking with the Republicans to try to figure out what we're going to do May 1st and beyond?
Absolutely. So not on my side of the Capitol, but on the Senate side, there is a bipartisan working group that was established by the majority and the minority to specifically work on what do those plans look like for reopening the economy. And, it's something that we're talking about in a less formal manner on the House side. But there is actually a formal working group encompassed of Democrats and Republicans, people from different parts of the state, including the gentleman from Frankenmuth, Senator Horn, who is the sort of my sort of a counterpart. I sit on the Commerce and Tourism Committee in the House, and so he's the chair of that committee's counterpart in the Senate. And he's spearheading that. And there's many folks like Senator Jeremy Moss from Southfield who sits on that committee. He's a Democrat. And so it's a bipartisan coalition of folks who have been named to that committee to help start those conversations and make it in a meaningful way, so that way there's a lot of diversity represented in terms of geography, in terms of economic priorities.
Mari Manoogian joining us. She is state representative for the 40th District, representing Birmingham, Bloomfield Township, parts of West Bloomfield. We're so glad to have you on the show. Glad to hear you're on that committee. We had Dave Lorenz on the show on Friday. He is vice president of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the go-to guy at Travel Michigan, if I could say it that way. I thought what he said was brilliant. By the way, he was great. And what he said, I thought, was right on target. This will sort itself out. But when it does, darn it all, Michigan people, when we travel, better travel than Michigan. We really need to support our economy. When up north wants us, and I get it, they don't want us up there right now, but when they do want us, we're really going to have to travel up there because we might not see people from around the rest of the country. And, we love going up north, and we love our northern Michigan communities. Walking around in downtown Charlevoix reminds me of walking around in downtown Birmingham. So,
Absolutely.
we want to get back up there. I know I do, you do, everybody does. So when time comes, we really hope that we get an opportunity to get back up there and enjoy our state.
Absolutely.
Representative Manoogian, I see you on television, so I can see you via Zoom. You're clearly one of the younger members of our legislature. I applaud you for your service. Can you talk to people that may be younger and talk to them a little bit about their roles and responsibilities during this crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think that that's something that's been it's been a priority. I've been talking to the Lieutenant Governor in particular about this. And, I'll say this. I have a sister who's 4 years younger than me. And I have, been talking to my younger cousin actually this morning. And I'll tell you, the young folks in this community are taking this seriously. They are very deeply concerned about the well-being of their parents and their grandparents, but continuing to stay at home. The thing that really disheartened me very early on in this crisis, I went to Michigan State. Although my degree is from George Washington, D.C., I did spend 2 years at Michigan State. My mother and my sister are Spartans. The thing that really disheartened me was seeing all those kids out there at the bar on Saturday night during St. Patrick's Day weekend, knowing full well that this was going to be a crisis. But I will say this. I think folks have learned a lot from then. And, I know my sister and her friends, I always check in on them to see what's going on with them, and they're taking this incredibly seriously. I also want to say this. A lot of our nurses, a lot of our PAs are young people. They're millennials. I know people think of millennials as little kids, but millennials are, 38, 39 years old now. So a lot of these, young people are really doing the best they can on the front lines, doing the best they can for our communities, doing the best they can for their families. So I'll say this. Keep doing what you're doing. Please make sure you're staying home and staying safe. But also, thank you very much for leading and being a good example for our community.
All right. Well said, Representative Manoogian. Unemployment still a challenge here in the state of Michigan. We do have the new federal dollars starting to come into the state, so it's $600 more for people who are unemployed. But I'll tell you what, it's still really hard to get online and file for unemployment in Michigan. Any update or thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think the biggest challenge has been that the unemployment insurance agency was just underfunded even prior to this crisis. And we had some serious issues around technology. So, and you guys know this, when a bunch of people are going to log on to the same website at the same time, if the infrastructure on that website isn't up to date or it isn't, quite ready to handle that kind of traffic, it's going to crash. It just is. And so the thing that's been the mad dash and the scramble has been making sure that we can get this system to a place where it can handle the volume. The thing that we've been doing in our office is, folks in our district are having issues getting through with unemployment. We just direct them to call us and we will help them as best we can. Some of the big challenges we've been facing, right, in our district in particular, we've got a lot of 1099 workers, a lot of contract workers. And because the system has changed to allow for them to apply for unemployment, allow them to get the benefits they need, there's been the law was passed, those dollars were approved, and then creating the system for people to apply for those dollars took some time. It was incredibly frustrating, I know, for folks who are trying to apply for it, but really, really happy to say that, if as of this morning, if you're having a hard time logging on, let us know, but you can log on if you're a 1099 worker or a contract worker and fill out the appropriate form for you. If you've been denied or there's been some issues with your claim, let your representative or your senator know, and they will help you work through that process because it can be incredibly challenging. And if you've never used the system before or it's throwing you an error message, we're here to help you. And also, this is also really, really important. You can sign up for benefits now through the UIA and backdated all the way to March 28th. So even if you're unable to log on today, you're still going to get those backdated benefits.
Well, I appreciate that. It's tough, though, for people that are trying to, get in the system, start to get the money rolling, knowing that you can get the backdated money is good. But I know everyone in Lansing is working hard. Nobody wants that system to not be there for the people, but it is a real challenge right now for folks in the state of Michigan. When can I walk through downtown Birmingham? Yes, keep my social distancing and see those stores open and shop. Well, I just tell you what, I cannot wait. I love downtown Birmingham, right in the middle of your district. I cannot wait for the day to open and walk down Old Woodward and go get a coffee at Starbucks and, keep a little distance, but get back to some level of normal. Do you see that happening soon?
I'm hopeful. I think, again, we're going to reevaluate this thing here at the end of the month and see what things look like. The thing I'm most concerned about is our frontline workers who are in our district, the folks in our district who are sick and who have family members that are very concerned about them. And, I think that, we're all itching to get back to life as normal, and what that normal looks like will remain to be seen as well. But, I think we just got to be really smart about this. And, I really want to get back out in downtown Birmingham too. I miss knocking on doors and talking to my constituents. That's something I've really missed out on, especially as the weather's gotten better here. But you know what? We just need to make sure that we're doing all the right stuff right now so we don't have to go back into a quarantine situation again because we opened things up too early.
State Representative Mari Manoogian, thank you so much for joining us. Good to chat with you. I look forward to when this is all over, maybe we can have you in the studio and we can have another conversation and we get a chance to meet in person. But thank you for being with us today. Anything comes up thank you. Anything that comes up that folks need to know about, would you give us a call? And we'll get back in touch. And good luck. Challenging days ahead for everyone in Lansing. We wish you the very best.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate the time.
All right. She is State Representative Mari Manoogian of the 40th District, representing Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, portions of West Bloomfield. Thank you very much, State Representative Tyler Keefe, another Sparty. You guys are everywhere.
We are. You can't get rid of us, Dave.
Well, yeah, I'm
not going to happen.
Proud of every single one of you. I didn't know that a lot of Sparties were partying on St. Patty's Day. I didn't hear that. I missed that story somehow.
I wasn't happy to see that either.
No.
I wasn't happy to see that either. That's a bad look down there at the Riv.
It is a bad look, but I'm sure people will behave themselves better going forward. All right. Let's take a break. We'll get ready for the president. We'll get ready for the governor's press conference this afternoon and go through our headlines, and we'll talk about the Carryout Club as we're getting close to lunchtime. It's a listing of a bunch of restaurants in our area that you can get a great carryout meal. We'll be back in a moment. This is the Megacast.
I know you're concerned about the coronavirus, and we're working hard to combat its spread and keep your family safe. But we need your help too. Wash your hands often with soap for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your face and cough into your sleeve. Replace handshakes with an elbow bump. Avoid large crowds or events, and if you're sick, stay home and call your health provider. Every one of us can make a difference limiting the virus's spread and keeping Michigan healthy.
Hello, I'm Dr. Faust, Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. Coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19, is a new disease caused by a new respiratory virus named SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 was first identified in December 2019. There is currently no vaccine to prevent coronavirus disease 2019. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to this virus. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after going to the bathroom, before eating, and after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces using a regular household cleaning spray or wipe. Avoid close contact with people who are sick, and avoid touching your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Finally, stay home when you're sick. For more information about coronavirus disease 2019, go to oakgov.com/health or call 1-800-848-5533.
Welcome back to the Megacast. My name is Dave Scott. Tyler Keefe over on the other side of the studio. And we thank you for joining us from our Lakes FM studio in West Bloomfield. and on 89.3 Lakes FM. Also on a number of great radio stations around the area. 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, WAHS 89.5, Avondale Community Radio, and on CivicCenterTV.com. You can watch us at all those places. Lot of interesting, very honest commentary on today's show. Great to hear the thoughts of Representative Manoogian. I really appreciate what she had to say, and also, well, everybody really. Chief Flynn, really open, honest dialogue today. Dr. Tuwheel with us. Mike Palmer from Premier Pet Supplies letting us know what's going on the front line. And then the principal of Bloomfield Hills High School joining us as well, Tyler. And if you missed any of these interviews and you want to watch them, go to Civic Center TV Megacast.com. They will be posted later on today. Also, that is a place to go at 3 o'clock today to be able to tune in and hear what the governor has to say. And I don't think she's going to be so worried about threading the eye of the needle today. She's been pretty confident about what she's doing. She's continuing to err, if she errs one way, err on the side of health and safety, and I expect we'll hear more of that today.
I would too. I think that's the perspective that the governor has taken throughout this process, and I think it's going to continue to be her chief motivation is how do we improve through this crisis from a health perspective, and from there grow improvement on the economic perspective, because you can't do one without the other.
No, and it's going to come in a continuing chorus of more people saying, well, yeah, I know, but, okay, yeah, I know we don't want to go up north. I get that one. But does it really make a big difference? And I'm not picking on anyone. This is not political commentary. Just observations I'm seeing from people talking. Does it really matter whether somebody cuts my grass or I cut my own grass? There are some of these things that as you just try to document these orders, you get yourself bound up, and you almost kind of, I mean, there's going to be a bunch of that stuff no matter what you do, and I understand that, but it opens the opportunity for criticism from the public, and we're seeing it posted on a lot of websites now, and then certainly Republican opposition, they're going to have their opinion, she's going to have her opinion, so it is opening the door for some of that, and I think she's going to have to address some of that when she talks today.
I would agree. I think that she definitely has to address that, and I think that she's going to have a greater involvement, I would expect today, from Dr. Jonay Caldoon from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, their executive, to explain the why behind the what, because there's been a lot of increased precautions being taken and restrictions being placed with the updated executive order, and Dr. Caldoon is the medical expert here and can explain why it's better to not take the risk in having somebody cut your grass as opposed to you cutting your own grass, or why it may be a safer precaution to take to not allow people out to golf. I would expect Dr. Caldoon to be even more involved than she normally is.
I like that, to explain the why behind the what. Explain the why behind the what. That's exactly what we want. We just want to, okay, so we can't have somebody cut our grass. Well, tell me why. Then make some logic out of it. You can't golf. Tell me why. By the way, I want to let people know I did a little bit of investigation myself as a media reporter over the weekend, and I surveyed, I would say, maybe 10 golf courses in southeastern Michigan. Okay? Nobody on any of them. It wasn't Easter Sunday. You would expect fewer people, but there was not a single soul on any golf course, including those that have been criticized in the media for being open. There was nobody, and I looked. I looked. There was nobody on a single golf course. So regardless of where you weigh in this, we the people, we are doing a great job. You guys are doing a great job making sure that you follow the rules. Some of the other headlines that we're watching today, self-employed folks. If you are self-employed or you are a contractor, you can apply today for the payroll protection plan. You want to apply as soon as you can. So if you fall in that category, get online, apply today, call your banker, get the information you need, get yourself informed, and then if you need some help, call somebody, your local chamber, the Oakland County Business Unit, somebody to help you get that application and get it in. There's only so much money available, and the banks who are dispersing those funds are already their hands full dispersing those funds and getting loans written up for the several thousands of people who applied as small businesses. Good news, the numbers we saw over the weekend about coronavirus cases, that's a good news, down a little bit. And we'll hear more about that from the governor, but also down the number of beds that they expect to set up at Suburban Showplace. As we scale back the number of beds, that is good news. They say today 250 will be set up. You can find that information by going to civiccentertv.com and go to our coronavirus page where we have all the news of the day. Michigan first in line for new federal program providing food assistance for families. Michigan is now the first state in the country to be approved for the Pandemic Electronic Benefit Transfer Program. The Pandemic EBT program's goal is to provide additional funds to families in need of assistance. Its aim is to keep school-aged children fed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Schools are already doing a good job, Tyler, in our area, but this is another layer that will help. Great story we've linked to in today's edition of the Oakland Press. Join Henry Ford Hospital in supporting first responders. We got an article here on the website where you can show your support for first responders by displaying a white ribbon outside your home or place a white ribbon image in your front window. Details on how to do that, all encouraged by the fine people at Henry Ford Hospital. And tomorrow we'll try to get these folks on the radio and on TV with us. West Bloomfield siblings Sammy and Jack Pollock created a forum for students elementary to high school to help them discuss their feelings and create an outlet during the COVID-19 quarantine. The website, genius. Genius. The website is called Quarantine. Excellent. The siblings say they got the inspiration from their mother, who's a social worker at Beaumont. If you are a local student would like to reach out to your peers, this is the place to go. If you're watching on Civic Center TV right now, I brought the website up. It's called Quarantine, and the URL is quarantinehelp.com. quarantinehelp.com, and this great-looking website, which is available now. It looks like they got apps, too, Tyler. Look at that. It's available through the App Store in Google Play, so you can install it on your phone. They have a blog and a whole lot more. Quarantine, and the headline at the top of the page says it all. Stay positive. Isn't it great when some of the best leadership in our community comes from a middle school and high school kid?
It is, and it's even better to see that teens and kids are helping each other through this as well, because the schools can do as much as they can do to continue education and to provide their support for their students and for the families in their districts. But the adults that are in leadership roles, they ultimately don't see the full perspective of students. So to see students helping each other, teens helping teens, kids helping kids, it's another profound community service being given by the people of our community.
And if you need another good sign of help, it comes from all angles. Friday, we had Dave Lorenz, Vice President of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, on the show. He is he's the leader and the voice and face of Travel Michigan, and he explains how tourism and the service industry is the first one to get hit during a crisis and is the first one back after it's all over.
I'm here to tell you, this is not going to last forever. We will get through this. And even though I know there's this feeling of being alone, you're not alone. We are in this together. Keep on hearing that everywhere, but we really are. We're in this together. And I hope there's some comfort in knowing that this is not a challenge that we should feel alone in dealing with. And, with that thought, reach out to your friends and family. If you're dealing with the stress that we're all dealing with, you're feeling anxious, nervous, share that with your friends and family. And if you do that, you might help them as well. So we'll get through this. It's a tough time for all of us, especially the travel and tourism industry. It's going to be a while before we get back. But interestingly enough, our industry is the first to get hurt with something like this. We'll be the first to come out of it too. And we're going to help the state move forward. It's the way it always goes.
I love those words from Dave Lorenz. Well said, optimistic, realistic, talking about his industry. And Tyler, people may not have seen or reported, is a lot of the dollars that Travel Michigan uses to promote tourism, which is one of our biggest industries, auto, agriculture, tourism. A lot of those dollars are just not going to be there because those dollars had to be spent on other things. And the money isn't going to be there.
It's not, and it will come back eventually, but it's going to be a process like everything else getting back to normal. And anything that you can do to support those industries in our state that are so key and so huge, we're gonna do. But for the time being, it's going to be a struggle for those industries too.
All right, so make sure you tune into the Megacast online and when we are live. And again, make sure you tune in if you're so inclined and are looking for a way to hear what the governor has to say. You're invited to go to civiccentertv.com at 3 o'clock, and we'll have that for you. If you miss it this afternoon, it's going to be important. She's going to tell us what we are going to be doing in the coming weeks. I urge you to tune in. But if you miss it at 3 o'clock, you can go to civiccentertv.com. Later on in the day, we'll have the archive up for you and some sound bites from the governor as well from the media conference going on today at 3 o'clock. And again, you can catch it live. And I assume we'll have it live on at least some of these radio stations and on TV. So that's going to be it for today. A huge thanks to everybody. Tyler, great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you're doing to make it all happen. Thanks to our radio stations, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and WAHS 89.5, Avondale Community Radio. We will all be back with you again tomorrow. We invite you to go to civiccentertv.com to tune in to archives and replays and comments from today's show. If you missed any of the commentary, we invite you to go there and watch. And then we will continue to keep what I think is the most comprehensive local data about the coronavirus up to date at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And finally, before we say so long, a huge thanks to the people at Premier Pet Supplies for allowing us to be on your Facebook page today. It is greatly appreciated. It helps us reach so many people. And to all of you pet lovers out there, we really appreciate you being with us today. That is the Megacast. Thanks for tuning in.